Hi, everyone. My name is Jared Woodhouse, and I am the chair-elect of the Association of Child Life Professionals Education and Training Committee. I am joined today by Krista Stringer, chair of the Education and Training Committee, and Christina Ricketts, committee member. We are here to discuss the updated internship application process guide and changes to the ACLP's internship common application going into effect with the January application deadline. These changes were developed based on feedback from nationwide benchmarking and discussions with students, academics, and internship sites to help provide consistency to the internship application process. We encourage you to reference the updated internship application process guide while watching this webinar. We will cover a few different topics during this webinar, including considerations when starting the Child Life internship application process, the ACLP Common Application requirements, understanding the 2019 Common Application changes, and what to do after you've submitted your internship applications. First, though, let's talk about what a Child Life internship is. The Association of Child Life Professionals describes a Child Life internship as a hands-on experience for students to put theory into practice working under a certified child life specialist. The goals of an internship include gaining knowledge in the psychosocial care of children, developing an understanding of the stressors that affect children going through healthcare experiences, and developing the skills necessary to function as an entry-level child life specialist. So where should a student start when trying to gain an internship? First, decide where to apply. There are many things to consider when choosing internship sites to apply to. Does the hospital have a large or small child life program? Is the hospital a dedicated children's hospital or a general hospital that sees pediatric patients? Where is the hospital located? It can be helpful for students to apply to hospitals in areas that they have friends and family to potentially stay with during the internship. Next, review the application requirements for each institution you are applying to. Does the site accept the ACLP's common application and follow the application deadlines? Does the site have a minimum GPA or volunteer requirements? Does the site require university affiliation? Some hospitals require that you are still a student during your internship. As you research all of these requirements, we encourage you to take organized notes to ease the process when you begin putting together your applications. One of the first things to put together when starting the application process is your resume. We encourage you to work with your school's Career Center for support putting your resume together. You should also make sure your resume is specific to the child life career. Focus on your experience working with children and volunteer work. While you may think it's better to include every job you have held, it's actually better to focus on related jobs instead. Think quality, not quantity. Also, make sure you proofread and have a friend proofread your resume and application before submitting it. Even the smallest spelling and punctuation errors can impact a person's perception of you. Next, you should start working on your cover letter. The cover letter is a new requirement this year, and details are described on the first page of the Common Application. You should write a unique cover letter for each site you are applying to, specifically discussing what interests you about their program, as well as what you can bring to the program. Prior to writing your cover letter, do your research on the program you are applying to. Is there anything specific that that institution offers that others do not? Use the cover letter to help show that program what makes you special. For example, one hospital may have a program just for sibling support. Talk about the previous work you have done with siblings or how you are interested in gaining more experience supporting siblings. Knowing how many applications some institutions receive, it's important to be concise in your letter. We encourage you to try to keep it under one page. Next, you will see the essay question of the Common Application. It's very important to completely answer each essay question, relating theory into your answers, while also keeping a response under the maximum word count. New for the 2019 deadline is also a request to list your 3 goals and 3 objectives each for your internship. These goals should be specific to the field of child life, and we encourage you to consider using the SMART acronym when developing your goals. The SMART system helps develop comprehensive goals and stands for specific, measurable, achievable, results-focused, and time-based, all important considerations when developing realistic goals. An example of a goal and objectives is provided on the Common Application. Next, Krista will continue discussing the changes to this year's Common Application.
Thanks, Jared. New for 2019, we have created a common recommendation form with the goal to provide consistency for students, academics, and internship sites. Please check and make sure that the site will accept this form. Some sites will choose to use just the common recommendation form, while others might use the common form and also still want reference letters submitted in addition to that. You need to also make sure it's clear on how each site wants the form to be submitted. Some sites may want the form emailed or submitted through an online portal, while others may want it signed and sealed and mailed in an envelope. You'll notice on the next slide, which is the actual common recommendation form, that you all as students complete the top box of that form prior to giving it to the person completing it for you. This tells that person exactly what should be submitted and how they should submit it. It's also important to make sure you have clarified with each site how many forms they're requiring. Some sites may require 2 forms, while others may require 3 or 4. Also make sure you're clear on the types of recommendation forms they want. Some sites may want a form from your child life practicum supervisor and an academic instructor, while others may also want one from an employer or someone who has observed your work with children. And when you're trying to decide the best person to write this form for you, make sure that you pick people that can actually speak to these skills and traits that you see listed on this form. It's also helpful to give that person a copy of your resume and to highlight things you did during your interactions with them. It's also helpful to make sure the person completing the form understands what the Child Life Internship is, especially if they're not familiar with our field. Also, make sure you give the person completing this form plenty of time prior to the application deadline to get this form submitted for you. We have 2 forms available for you to verify your experience hours. The first form is to verify your Child Life Practicum experience, which should be completed by your Child Life Practicum supervisor. If your Child Life Practicum is in progress when you're applying for the internship, then you would submit the Practicum in Progress form. You will need to check with each site to ensure that they will accept the Child Life Practicum in Progress. Some sites will accept it in progress when you're applying, as long as it's complete by the time you would start the internship with them, while other sites do require that Child Life Practicum is complete by the time you're applying. For all of your other related experience hours with children, which can be paid and unpaid, you would use the verification of related experience hours. There are 3 forms, as you can see here, to verify your course requirements, and I'm going to go in detail of each form on each of the next 3 slides. The Child Life Course in Progress form is to be used for that required Child Life class taught by a certified Child Life specialist, and you would use this form when that course is still in progress at the time you're applying for internship. It should be completed by the class instructor, and you'll still need to check with each site to ensure that they will allow this course to be in progress when you're applying. Some sites will allow the course in progress at the time of application, as long as it's complete by the time you would start the internship, while other sites do require this course complete at the time of application. The Child Life Course Verification Form is utilized to verify successful completion of that required class taught by a certified Child Life specialist, and it would be completed by the class instructor. Check with each site, though, because not all sites require this form as part of the application packet, because this is something that can also be easily verified through the ACLP eligibility assessment. For the other 9 required additional courses, we do have an additional courses in progress form, and this would be used when any of those courses are in progress at the time you're applying for internship. It will be completed by the instructor of the class, and you would need to submit a separate form for each class. Again, check with each site to see if they will allow courses to be complete when you apply, or if they have to be, or if they can be in progress. You will notice on the form that there is a spot for the instructor to indicate if the academic program is endorsed and/or if the courses are pre-approved. Academic programs can apply to be endorsed through ACLP by completing an application process and meeting certain standards set forth by ACLP. They are endorsed for a period of 5 years, and each year they do have to continue to show that they meet those standards. For programs that are unable to meet the endorsement standards, they can choose instead to apply for individual courses to be pre-approved, going through an application process through ACLP. If you as a student are taking a course that has been pre-approved by ACLP, then that means that once you have successfully completed that course, then you're guaranteed that it will count and pass on your ACLP eligibility assessment. Christina is now going to continue talking about more tips throughout the process.
Thanks, Krista. So there are some other application requirements that you need to consider. First of all, your transcripts. You need to check with each site to see if they require an official or unofficial transcript to be sent. Some sites will allow you to turn in an unofficial transcript when you're interviewing, but require the official transcript once you have accepted a position. Be sure to check individually with each site to see what their process is. You also need to consider application costs. The next slide has a detailed list of application costs that you can expect. Please remember as we go through these that costs will vary for each applicant. These are estimated average costs. The first two items, the ACLP student membership fee and the eligibility assessment, are both $75 each. When submitting your official transcripts to the ACLP, check with your academic institution to see how much that will cost. You may also need to submit official transcript for your internship site, but again, remember to check with each site to see if they will allow you to turn in your unofficial transcripts. Some sites have application fees. Check with each site before you submit to see if there is an application fee, how much it would be, and how you can turn that in. You may also need to pay for copying your resumes, your envelopes, those types of things, and also your postage. Again, that will vary from student to student. You can also expect some travel costs if you plan to do on-site interviews. Please consider costs before applying to sites. You can tailor your application process to meet your financial needs. For example, if you know ahead of time that an internship site would require an on-site interview, plan ahead for your traveling costs, or do not apply if you know you cannot afford to travel at that time. Next, we're going to talk about some tips when submitting your application. Follow every site's directions carefully, and remember to check with each site to get specifics about their application process. Please do not handwrite any of your answers. You must type everything that you submit when you're applying to your internship. This will make it easier for those reviewing your application. Also, please use priority mail or certified mail. When you do this, you can get a return receipt so that you know the site received your application. If you don't do this, you may have to call and check to see if sites have received your application, so it's just better if you can use priority mail or certified mail. Also, confirm with each site if they require the application to be postmarked or received on the date of the deadline. Some sites are okay if it's just postmarked by that day, but other sites need to actually physically receive your application on the date of the deadline. You can see here at the bottom of the slide the deadlines for each internship session. When you are attending your interview, we wanted to give you some tips. Please dress appropriately. You want to portray a professional look. For example, it may not be appropriate to wear jeans. You may want to wear closed-toed shoes, etc. Remember that you should dress professionally and appropriately for a hospital setting. Also, make sure you get to your site early. Leave plenty of time for traveling and finding your way in the hospital. However, don't check in too early. Those who are interviewing you are probably working on their other tasks for the day, including patient care, other meetings, etc. Once you get to your site, you can wait until about 5 minutes before your interview to check in. Make sure you have questions prepared. Do your research beforehand so you can ask questions about each program. Have all of your questions written down so you don't forget to ask anything. When answering questions during your interview, tie in theory to your responses. This will show that you are knowledgeable and have the ability to apply theory during your interactions with patients and their families. After your interview, it's important to send thank you notes. Most internship sites will recognize that the internship process can be expensive for students, so a thank you in an email is acceptable. If you would like to write thank you notes by hand, remember to send them as soon as possible after you interview. Finally, on the offer day and beyond, any accredited site must follow the ACLP's schedule for offers. So remember to be patient and don't reach out to those sites before the offer date. If a site is not accredited, you may want to ask them when they plan to offer. Please be considerate of internship sites and notify sites of your decision to accept or decline in a timely manner. ACLP's recommended guidelines give you 24 hours to decide if you're going to accept or decline. Just make sure you let every site know what your decision is. Once you accept an offer, you have made a commitment to that site. Even if you get another offer on the second offer date, it's not good practice to go back on your word. If you're not selected for an internship, you should plan to submit your application again for the next deadline. If you do have to resubmit your application, ask for feedback from sites on how you can improve. Don't be discouraged. Getting an internship can be tough, and sometimes you have to interview more than once. Some final thoughts on the process. Remember to review your application. Make sure you're looking for typos, grammar mistakes, etc. It's always good practice to have someone else proofread your application before you submit it. Remember to review site requirements for each individual site that you're applying to. Make sure that you're submitting everything the site has asked for in their application. Also, remember it's okay to ask questions. If a site's requirements aren't clear or you just need some more answers, double check with them before you submit your application. Remember throughout the whole process to always act with professionalism and integrity. Even if you don't get an interview, sites will remember if you were professional. Our final slide has some resources for you. The resources listed here can all be found at www.childlife.org. You can also reach out to the ACLP Academic Review Committee or the ACLP Internship Accreditation Oversight Committee if you have specific questions. Also remember that the Education and Training Committee is available to support you and answer questions you may have as you work through the internship application process.